evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on yet another episode of the Import Export Advisory Series. As you know, this series of podcasts have been designed to make sure that we get you the best of the import export industry, informing you and educating you of what is happening and what is current in the market. So this is our 24th episode, and in this episode we have a young rookie who has started playing the import-export market. At 27, he comes with 12 years of experience, which means that he has started his journey 12 years back at 15, and he has a lot of information to share. Apart from that, he plays a very important role in the FIEO, very well known for what he is doing, and he has already touched some of the most difficult challenges any exporter would have faced. So we have Mrigank. Mrigank, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chaitanya.
So today I will be playing the role of a spectator. Meenal will be the one who is conducting this episode. Meenal, welcome and over to you.
Thank you, Chaitanya. A very warm welcome, Mrigank, to our today's episode. We are proud to share that we have reached 24th episode, and this journey has been amazing. Yeah, so very warm welcome, Mrigank.
Thank you
Uh,
so much, Meena. Thank you, Chaitanya. Sorry, I'm saying I think, and congratulations on achieving the 24th episode.
Yeah, thank you. So, today, when we have this young, dynamic Mrigank with us, he brings himself like a lot of experience. And before that, I'll share what we are going having this today. So, we have like the today's topic, the 24th episode is scaling beyond borders, India's e-commerce exports. Sounds really exciting. So this 24th Export Import Advisory Series podcast is today is in with collaboration with Indian Institute of Materials Management, Ahmedabad. Indian Institute of Materials Management is a prominent body having 55 branches across India, catering to supply chain professionals and does a lot of work on the ground level educating the supply chain professionals. And since today is a topic where we have Mrigank who is coming from FIO, let me also share a little about what FIO is and how it touches the lives of exporters. So, FIO, Federation of Indian Export Organization, popularly known as FIO, is the apex body of trade promotion organization in India, set up by Ministry of Commerce in 1965, like long back, with an objective to focus the efforts of all the stakeholders who are engaged in trade facilitation and also catalyze the growth of goods and services export from India. Thus, FIO is actually the partner of Government of India in boosting India's exports and represent the spirit of Indian enterprise in the global trade. And you will be the audience here, you will be very happy to know that FIO has been touching lives of more than 2 lakh exporters till date through various activities which they do day in and day out. And I really appreciate the efforts of FIO helping a lot of exporters bridge the gap and help them wherever they need. So with this, I would like to introduce Mrigank first. So Mrigank is a very young, dynamic individual. He has been working very closely with FIO. He's a convener of Committee on E-commerce Exports, FIO Western Region, and he comes from an export background. And he started e-commerce exports at the age of 15, like 12 years back, when e-commerce export was actually not known to much of the entrepreneurs in India. So this was as an extension of his father's textile business, which they used to export a lot in the bulk. Now he carries, as Chaitanya shared, experience of almost 12 years in this domain. So today, why we have chosen this topic? Because this is something which Indian government is really pushing hard to increase exports, but again, particularly e-commerce exports from India. if I look at the statistics, India has set up a target of $200 billion target in e-commerce exports by 2030. So it's actually almost 10% share of the projected global 2 trillion e-commerce export market. And government has been doing a lot of measures, initiatives to enable exporters, including the Trade Connect e-platform and e-commerce export hubs. So again, like I think last year or so, DGFT, Directorate General of Foreign Trade, has also launched MSME handbook on e-commerce exports, where they've touched upon the entire supply chain, like all the logistics part, the supply chain part. Again, on the market research, like what products can be focused for e-commerce exports on India, from India. But again, with this background, what I believe has been missed out, or what our exporters need to understand is the hands-on experience. So for that, we have Regang, who will be sharing his journey and what to do, what not to do. So first question to you, Mrigank, why should somebody get into e-commerce exports? What is in store for them if they want to get into this domain?
Okay. First of all, thank you so much, Meena, for this warm introduction. Thank you, Chaitanya. Meena, you're also doing a phenomenal job for promoting exports. I know the work you're doing in Ahmedabad in the western region of India. So that's very good. So, Meena, to answer your question, e-commerce exports is primarily one thing where, so e-commerce is the easiest business to start with. It requires the least amount of capital. Everybody has the capital to start the e-commerce business. All you need is a mobile phone or a computer or a laptop, and you need internet, which is in the hands of every single person. You don't need anything. You don't need to invest money in terms of buying products. You can identify a skill, you can offer a service, you can do anything that you want. You know somebody who's probably selling dead stock or scrapping products. If you have an idea to upcycle that or repurpose that, you can sell that. You don't have to sell in bulk. You can sell one piece or you can sell 100 pieces. Marketing budgets are the least required. You can probably invest 1,000 or 2,000 rupees in ads, and you can probably get your first order itself. You can sell via a website, you can sell via a marketplace, you can sell via many methods. You don't need a place, you don't need to invest in a brick and mortar location or a infrastructure. You can do that sitting from your bedroom. So e-commerce exports, one of the biggest things is, if, especially cross-border e-commerce, as we say, it helps you with margins, it helps you with making more money. There are two aspects to it. One is the exporter himself and how the country benefits. If I start with how the country benefits, because that's going to be a smaller, or like I can complete that quicker. India is known for its quality. You can reach out to more than all of the countries that are there, more than 195 countries that exist. You can do seasonal businesses. You can sell to all countries parallelly or simultaneously. You don't need to be present, or unlike conventional exports where you have to sell in bulk or you have to sell a big volume at one go and then invest a lot of money or get bank finance, among other things. E-commerce exports does not involve that. Generally, e-commerce exports always involves getting the money in advance, and suppliers also can be paid out easily because it's always in smaller tranches. It's E-commerce exports is seen as D2C, which is direct to consumers, though there are a lot of different business models. I know people who are selling umbrellas to as a measure to protect your skin in the hottest weather, and not just to places where it rains. There are people who are selling fox nuts, which is makhana from Bihar, to the world. There are people selling from Sitpur, from Gujarat. There are people selling via e-commerce channels to Isabgul to or Psyllium Husk to America, to Europe, and where not. These people in conventional exports would generally have to come to a trading hub, or they would have to come to a capital city, or reach out to people physically for marketing in certain countries, then probably get to manufacturers, procure a bigger quantity, go to a bank or run to anybody for finance, then pay interest on those, probably might have to offer those on credit, among other things. E-commerce exports just removes all of these barriers. You can, any idea that you have in
Wow.
mind, you have Panditjis or priests out of Varanasi and Mathura Vrindavan who are getting weddings done in America. You have people who are therapists and
Right.
lawyers who are consulting people. With computers, everybody is gotten into editing, right? Like there are so many free AI tools that help you with editing, with graphic designing, website building. So this is all e-commerce. I mean, it's not just selling goods, but also services. In fact, if you refer to the recent news,
True.
this is the very first time that India's services exports have surpassed India's merchandise exports. And services exports are again one of the biggest contributors to the economy. As they say that, there are big companies which are selling and making an impact to, I mean, we have the biggest retail chains and we have the all of them talking huge numbers, but the economy is always run by the typical mom and pop stores which are right near next to the corner. And even though quick commerce is making a lot of news and so many other things are, but a typical mom and pop store or a corner store will always going to run the economy because that generates employment. People contribute taxes, especially indirect taxes.
Hmm. Correct. True. So I think as per what you have discussed till now, it looks like it's so easy to start with e-commerce exports. Then I'm really surprised why it has not gained so much of attention or why not many people are doing it. So I think, can you further guide on like how can they start, or you can share your own journey, which people can relate that how they can start their own
So I'll
e-commerce
start with my
business.
own journey, all right? Now, generally,
Yeah.
the way it started for me was I come from a Banya family, a typical Banya family, where it's ingrained in your mindset कि if आप पैदा हुए हो तो job is always seen as an alternative, but the primary thing is you have to join the family business. Now, I'm a second generation entrepreneur. My father has been exporting textiles to a lot of countries. Now, what happened is when I entered degree college or college as we call it in Bombay, I was made to come to office because college used to be for 3 4 hours, and we used to come see how business is happening, learn certain things, accounts here and there. What happened is one day that I overheard my father speaking with some of his office people that oh, we have overstocked on a particular product, or we have dead stock. Dead stock in the sense stock which is probably out of fashion, but it's in good condition. It can be sold. And textile business in generally, what happens is if you have dead stock and if you want to get rid of it, they're sold by kilos. Good condition or bad condition, there are grades, but it's always scrapped from a probably range of 3 rupees a kilo, and it can probably go to 60, 70 rupees a kilo. I mean, Surat, Ahmedabad, Bombay, the Dadar
Oh,
market, and all these are very popular with these. But what I had a question, and what I questioned myself, and then later on my father was that if it's in good condition, why can't we sell it? But then because he was in conventional and bulk
hmm.
exports, we came up, I read about it a little, I saw what are the selling avenues, and we came to an agreement where if I manage to sell these products off, I will get to keep the revenue or the money, the profits basically. He didn't agree for revenue, but he agreed for the profits, which was kind of sweet.
Very smart.
Then
Right.
we had a mannequin. We started getting photographs done. Those typical digital cameras used to be there then. We connected those. We set up an account on eBay. We set up an account with PayPal. We started listing pictures. People started seeing those, placing orders. We got orders from every corner of the world, from Australia, from a country called New Caledonia, or in Oceania, or from the US, from the UK, from Africa, and where not. Like how Amazon's
Okay.
journey started. I remember, I mean, they had their very first order from I think Belarus or from Bulgaria, from one of those countries in Eastern Europe. So once that happened, then we saw people in the US and Europe, as it's popularly said, that people don't stick to one job, but they always do an additional side stint or a side business. A person reached out to me saying that,
Correct.
I'm already doing a particular job, but I also want to buy more of these in bulk, which was again a bonus for me.
Hmm.
We got in touch with each
Right.
other, we started selling more, and we sold it for a higher amount and a bigger margin than my father would sell it at all. So there were super profits for us. That the margins
Wow.
were 3x or 4x or double than what my father would sell it for. And then I had the money in advance. I could pay
Hmm.
off the vendors if I had to. After that, we started realizing that the B2B potential was so high. So we got listed on IndiaMart, Trade India, Alibaba, Global Sources. We scaled with that again.
Hmm.
We forayed, then we realized like how we have sari. It's a 6.5 yard or a 6.5 meter cloth. Indians see it as a sari, but if you go to some person who does not know it as a sari, they will make a fabric out of it, they can make a gown out of it, they can make a dress out of it. Eventually, it's just a cloth. It's a piece of cloth which is
Correct.
measuring 6.5 meters. That happened. Then after that, we started understanding. Then customers started teaching us. We forayed into the market of Africans and women of Middle Eastern origin who were staying in Europe and America. They had particular requirements, their colors. So they started explaining and teaching us about a few things. And of course, once that happened, we started learning. We understood what are the pain points with Indian suppliers. Generally, it was always about, you can say, timely deliveries, people not responding on time, additional costs, people not communicating or showing something and delivering something else. So we dealt with all of those problems.
Hmm.
We probably learned that, okay, they want to see more angles of pictures, they want measurements. The Indian sizing system was very different than the sizing system that's followed in Africa or Europe or America. And from there, we of course scaled up a lot, and that remained a market. After a while, when there were certain products where I was the very first person in the world to sell that particular category on Amazon, Amazon Europe, Amazon America. But that flopped for me
Okay.
that's because I realized that Amazon or most of these e-commerce portals or marketplaces are meant for fast fashion. They're not meant for exclusive fashion. Their algorithm works in a very different manner. Of course,
Okay.
not everything is so attractive. I mean, we made losses, we made mistakes, we were victims of frauds, there were issues with governments, there
Oh,
were problems of duties and taxes. Clients did not know that when goods reach their own country, they have to pay an import duty and taxes. Like also, you have to do that in India. There were packaging norms or invoicing norms which we were not following or which we were not aware of. And India did not have a legislation or a regulation or a policy for e-commerce exports until 2016. And it was FIO
correct.
which took the stand, which actually initiated that. Khalid Khan sir, I'm sure you've met him.
Yeah.
He was the one who has I've been writing to
Yeah.
DG sir, Ajay Sai sir. I've been writing emails since 2016 about policy issues and this and that, and we've come a long way since then. Back then,
Yeah.
none of these American companies or marketplaces had any such support offices over here. So you were always relying on emails, reading
Hmm.
on your own. Today, the infrastructure of the whole environment
Yeah.
is different. Today, Amazon has their own offices, eBay has their own support teams, PayPal has their own support teams, OpenUni has their own support teams. But back then, you had to learn on your own. You had to
Hmm.
probably connect with somebody in Malaysia, somebody in Philippines, somebody in probably Europe for any of the smallest issues.
Yeah. Correct. So I think like your journey has been a total roller coaster ride. That no, you also faced some setbacks. Like you say, shared that on Amazon certain things didn't work, but again, I think you have been able to pull up things very well. So I think what could be the starting point you have already guided to the audience that okay, once you identify a product, or even you can guide on how to identify a product or what products can be looked into and what direction they can move into for further exports. For those who are already into exports, traditional exports, should they get into e-commerce exports, or if somebody wants to start afresh, what would be
See,
your
when starting
thoughts
with
on that?
e-commerce exports, I always mention one thing. I have always one point, that is, people come asking me that, which product should I start with or which market should I target to? Now, I always mention one
Correct.
thing, that this is something which is very specific, each to their own. I can suggest a lot of things, but it also depends on what their capital is or what is the capital they're ready to deploy, what is the infrastructure they have readily available with them, how much time can they deploy to it, are they doing it as a side job or something else, are they service oriented, are they merchandise oriented, all of these factors come into play. I mean, when I say things to people, I always suggest them one thing. First, identify what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what is the capital that you're ready to deploy, what is the line of product. There are some things which makes you money. I might be profit centric, but I might be
Hmm.
passionate about doing or delivering a service better, or I might have an idea which I want to try. The best part about e-commerce exports is that you don't need to deploy any money as such. You can start something, you can fail 100 times with different ideas, and probably first time you could be successful, but those 100 attempts that you make, you will not lose a lot of money. There's enough information available, there is enough research available. For example, say you're based out of Tirupur in Coimbatore or closer to Coimbatore. That's a t-shirt hub. You can probably pick up t-shirts, you can target it out to smaller B2B businesses all over the world where they are customizing, they're making them as uniforms, they're printing things. If you're based out of Nagpur, you can probably do something with orange and orange byproducts or similar products of orange. If you're in Bihar, fox nuts is one thing, but there is also bamboo art. If you are from an IT background,
Wow.
I have heard of people where, or children where, they're charging. I mean, India, the laws and does not allow that, but I know 16, 18-year-olds, and there are services where, there are people who require services with tech. They need basic issues solved on their mobile phone. And people do that for $20 or they do that for $15, And so you can do many things. I mean, there are too many opportunities. You can read up. It's always easy for me to guide those people who are already from an exports or from a product background, which they are already doing. For example, you talk about umbrellas, right? There could
Correct.
be one country where rains have stopped, but another country where it is, or there could be another country where it snows, or if you're innovative enough, or you face issues with umbrellas not selling because it's a seasonal business in India, you can sell that in the Middle East countries where it's so strong. I mean, I know people who are selling it as SPF, which is like a sun protection factor. I think that's the term for it, which basically saves your skin from sunlight and other issues. It's a big hit in the Middle East because that's how they're marketing it. So you might sell at its peak over here,
Correct.
while rest of the year you could be doing that. There are there are people in Dharavi
Correct.
where people are selling very good leather jackets. We also need to understand that e-commerce is a very broad term. Every export business that's there in India, or any
Yes.
business that's there in India, apart from the mom and pop stores that we visit or the retail stores that we visit, they're all e-commerce businesses. Conventionally, e-commerce is basically if you're dealing with email or with WhatsApp or with any internet communication or using mobile phone. Without that, no business is possible. So I like to call it e-commerce
Mm.
2.0 or modern e-commerce, where there needs to be a
Mm.
definition. The government also needs to put a definition to it, that how is it different from conventional conventional exports. What,
Exports.
from a
Correct.
country perspective, every e-commerce exports involves the maximum number of stakeholders. I can bet that no other business
Right.
involves as many stakeholders as much as e-commerce does, especially e-commerce exports. Because if I'm a conventional exporters, I will go to a manufacturer, or if I'm a manufacturer myself, I'll procure those goods and I'll export it to a buyer. The middle person, there might be just a logistics person involved. The money will be sent from the bank, the buyer's bank to my bank, and it will be done. In e-commerce exports, I go to a manufacturer or I manufacture myself. I'm supposed to list that on my website, on marketplaces. The payment comes to me from a payment
Right.
wallet like a PayPal or Payoneer, which uses another banking partner in India like a
Mm.
Citibank or an HSBC to transfer to my own bank, which could be another bank. Then I might use
Right.
again a logistics marketplace like ShipRocketX, or I could give it to DHL, FedEx, or the other courier companies, or I could use India Post. The goods will go there, and the
Right.
payments will again come through that. So it's a much longer loop. I mean, e-commerce exports
Right.
can generate the highest amount of employment. It will involve the maximum number of stakeholders. There is no ministry or there is no industry
Mm.
that does not involve us, because Ministry of Labor we will have an impact. Anything that the Labor Department does, or Ministry of Corporate Affairs does, or Ministry of Finance does, and we are the SME base. I mean, somebody in e-commerce exports could be
Mm.
making a 20 lakh turnover and could still be making more profits than a person who's exporting for rupees 1 crore worth of goods or services.
Very true. Very true. I think that's a very valid point. So they need to leverage that what product where and what to put in e-commerce, what not to put in e-commerce, right? So yes.
So that's there. Again, I mean, I always tell
So
people, if you can identify, like we also at FIO conduct regular workshops for the same reason. We are also partnering with a lot of people because, like e-commerce exports now, the government's primary focus right now is more on merchandise exports, make in India. But we are also pushing for services exports because Services exports gets you more money, gets you more revenue in the country, and there are multiple avenues. There are people in Jaipur or people like in Colaba and Bombay where I can just be marketing a particular service, or somebody staying in a closer hotel searching for a particular product, and I can get them to reach me over here. And or I always tell one more thing to people, that America or Europe or Canada are not the only markets they should see. The Middle East has a lot of demand. Africa has a lot of demand. South America has a lot of demand, and Asia also has a lot of demand. The problem is they lack banking infrastructure, but there are a lot of alternative ways of selling goods and services. And they have, I mean, there are alternate ways of paying. You can set up offices. I mean, the government is being very supportive. We still are working on the policy. We represent people. The reason people,
I was about to
sorry,
ask that.
go on.
Yeah. No, on the what are the challenges? Like, I think there are a lot of positive things which we have discussed, but again, on the execution side, what are the challenges being faced right now? Because what I've heard and understood is, like, if you route your money through PayPal or some other platform, they take a lot of
Yes.
commission away. Then you have the logistics partner, Shiprocket, etc. Again, they take a lot of money away from the chain. So what is feasible, and how, what are such other challenges?
So
You can
to
highlight
start
that.
with, one thing is people have a mental block or a hesitation to start with other things, all right? Generally, India, the people's mindset is that they might be penalized, or something can happen with, or the government might come after them if they've done something wrong, which I always tell them that if you have no wrong in mind, all you do, government never does that, or they don't come after you. Once you've identified your product, you can always do a trial business. I understand people have hesitations that people are charging you a commission, the marketplaces have their own fees, there are a lot of other things, but that's everywhere. I mean, you pay tax only when you make profits. On the other hand, you've got to see that you can make more money than what you would do in India. There is less competition right now. You have a head start over other people.
Nice.
You can't imagine your product's application. You might think that my product is only application for a particular industry or particular line of consumers, and the moment you go abroad, you might realize, oh, my product can also. So there is
True.
no. The biggest problem I see right now is there are hurdles. Of course, there are hurdles because people don't know the know-how. Generally, what happens is, now if I have to list myself on a particular website, if you've crossed the biggest hurdle is if you know what you want to sell and how you're going to procure that product and which market you want to sell in, which is 50% of the hurdle. Because until you're not clear of what you want to do, you can't get to step two. But once that's there, payments, I mean, all of these companies are training. They are conducting regular workshops. They're going to Jaipur. They're going to cities like Badohi and training carpet exporters. In Moradabad, they are training brass hardware and brass handicraft exporters. So it's all happening there. People are there. The support system is there. They'll have to start somewhere. Once you start doing it, people say documents क्या जरूरत है, documents की क्या जरूरत है, हमें पता नहीं है. They should reach out to us. You don't need any more documents. All you need to start exports than other conventional businesses is an IEC, which is called an importer exporter code or a certificate, which takes less than 10 minutes to generate. Generally, if you go on the DGFT website or for applying for an IEC code, now for a new applicant, your PAN card number only becomes your IEC code unless if the DGFT or the department wants to generate another number for you. Once you
True.
have that, you can approach. Nowadays, earlier there was during my business time of back then and 10 years before, you had to approach a courier company, negotiate rates, or you had to be like, okay, well, your rates are very expensive. How do I price my product? But now all of that help and information is available. There are so many people who are conducting master classes and workshops, like you yourself. So it's just a mental hesitation right now. I
True.
always tell people that even when we have physical events and workshops, people will come, listen, and go back. I tell them that you're not supposed to go back. घर जाके बैठना नहीं है. आप try करो, आप sign up करो portals पे, आप जहाँ अटक रहे हो, you reach out to us. We have such a big machinery, we have such a big support system. We will
Yeah.
make it happen.
Yeah. True. I think you have shared very right perspective that you have to start. So I think there's a proverb which says good beginning is half done. So if you just start, I think a lot of challenges will come, of course, but then you need to solve and you will also learn and you will apply it in various fields. So at least good beginning has to happen, right? So with this, Mrigang, it leads me to the last question for today, that how it leads me to the last question, that okay, what are the final takeaways or final things, and what policy is there in place as of now? According to me, government is putting a lot of efforts, but yes, they are. I think he has just lost the connection.
I'm back there, I guess. I'm sorry, I just had a glitch for a quick minute, but I'm back online. Yes.
Fine. So, like, now, what are your parting thoughts? Like, because we are at the end of the session side. So, what are your
Hmm.
parting thoughts? And again, one last point from a policy perspective. Right now, what is your thought on the current policy on e-commerce? And it is evolving, as I understand. There's no final policy in place. But what suggestions would you like to the government side, that okay, if these four things, five things, 10 things gets in place, I think India can reach to that milestone of 200 billion dollars of exports. Like, so
So,
what is that you want to like to share?
see, presently the problem is that the government does not have a system of calculating e-commerce exports because it's a very new subject. Just
Hmm.
recently, 2 years ago, only the government in the budget and in the foreign trade policy, they've just introduced a very small paragraph for e-commerce exports that's extremely brief, and they're still working on it. But what happens is e-commerce exports is a very, very dynamic business. It's very new and it's got so many aspects to it that you can't really restrict it. Like the government has a policy that, if I'm exporting a certain value of goods, I'm supposed to receive a minimum of 95% or 90% or 75% worth of value. But what if I'm in a warehouse fulfillment model where I'm selling it to marketplaces and warehouses over there? My product might work, my product might not work. But if I say if I've exported something, it doesn't sell, the cost of bringing it back to India is expensive, and
Yeah,
India does
return.
not even have returns policy yet. The
True.
biggest success for e-commerce in India was cash on delivery and returns policy. Now, when you don't have that for e-commerce exports or for cross-border trade, a lot of people
Exactly.
don't want to buy from you. I
Right.
mean, there is a logistical challenge that the cost of bringing it back to India is not feasible, but that's the call of an exporter and his client. But the
Hmm.
government has to allow that.
Hmm.
The second thing is the government is only measuring courier exports. Exports via the courier shipping bill 5 is what
Hmm.
the government calculates as e-commerce exports, which is completely wrong. If I could be using cargo method for exports, I could be using proper formal clearance. What about services exports? Are you telling me services exports are not a part of e-commerce exports? But for that,
Hmm.
there is no customs involved. So the only way right now is if the government really has to calculate it. First, you'll have to tell companies like you have the information available. It just has to be collated together and just have a RBI purpose code dedicated for e-commerce exporters, where
Correct.
when you export abroad or when you receive money from abroad, there are dedicated RBI purpose codes.
Correct.
Which basically a purpose code defines the reason for the transaction or the nature of transaction. It could be a
Hmm.
reimbursement, it could be a salary, it could be anything.
Correct.
If you have it dedicated for e-commerce exports, first the numbers start coming up.
Very true.
Amazon says we are doing 7 billion or 10 billion. PayPal might say another number, but all the
Hmm.
numbers and all have been in a Meta event, and Meta says there's another number from India. The
Hmm.
problem is whose numbers do you believe in? Because
Yeah.
neither is the government's number accurate, neither are these private players' numbers accurate.
So there has
Once
to
you
be one
have these
place
numbers,
where the tagging has to happen. You are right, say sharing that if from the RBI purpose board selection when they receive the money, but then again, how practically that could be a hassle. So right now, if I understand it rightly, in terms of traditional exports, once they receive the money, at that time the bank will ask you what is the purpose code, then you will define it, and that is how it works. But then this is like, if somebody does a full-fledged e-commerce business, they may be doing hundreds, thousands of transactions in a day or in a month. Then tagging
mm,
those things again, we need to have AI-based systems, or we'll, I think, surely need to make use of technology to make this available to the world at large, because e-commerce is all about cross-border trade, I think.
See, the thing is, the Indian customs and the GST framework and all, they're all supported by the behemoths. You have Infosys, you have uh, TCS, all of these are the service providers for all the export businesses. The ECCS system is again backed by one of these big companies. These solutions are very easy. All the banks, all of them have that infrastructure. The only thing is because there are too many stakeholders involved. There is a payment wallet, there are two banks, the receiver bank, the sender bank, there are multiple logistical players, there's the
Yeah,
customs, and there's a cargo, and there's an exporter, and there's a marketplace. So because it's a
correct.
very complicated web, or it's a very complex web, complicated should not be seen as a negative
Mm.
connotation, but so they all need to come together
Mm.
and make a framework for it, which is very easy.
Yeah, very true, very true. So I think with this, we are almost ending the session. What would your final takeaways or giveaways to the audience? Not to at least they begin with their exports, or if they are already into e-commerce or already into export business, what two or three things they must do it according to you?
From Okay, so this is dedicated for those people who are already in domestic e-commerce, or people who are in exports, or people who are in a domestic product business. Look at e-commerce, start
Yeah,
today. It's very easy. There is very less risk involved. There is no harm of money being lost or anything of any
right,
sort. Meena, are you there?
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah,
So it's very
yeah,
easy. It's You can reach out to as many people as you want. There's the whole geography available. You can
yeah,
sell to any corner of the world, and you don't have to be worried. You don't have to be worried about losing any money. The maximum risk that you would take is probably 30 or 40,000 rupees, which probably a person spends on a holiday.
correct. Right, right. So I think that's a great thing which you have shared. Like to begin with, they can do a lot of things, but the beginning has to happen. And I'm pretty sure being a part of the e-commerce exports committee of FIO, you are putting in a lot of efforts to streamline the processes, or give suggestions to the government from the exporter side that what better they can do so that it easily happens for any exporter to begin
So
with.
let me
So thank you so much, Miriam. Yeah,
So
yeah,
I wanted
please.
to
Sorry.
end with this that I must at least thank Mr. Khalid Khan sir, Paresh Mehta sir, because they were the ones who actually created. So FIO is India's first and the apex body for exports, which actually started and which has
Correct.
been the front runner for e-commerce exports in India. And we have a very dynamic committee. I
Correct.
mean, I'm a convener, but I have people from PayPal, from India Post, and who are postal exporters, people doing such huge volumes, and from so many backgrounds who actually always contribute. And FIO has really been
Right.
running, and I mean, really been supporting, advising the DGFT for fighting with
Yeah.
in the right places involved. I mean, we're really, trying to pull all the strings and the support system that's possible.
Correct. Correct. Very true. So I think we'll need to do another session also with you so that we gain gain more insights from you for our exporters and the upcoming business people. And yeah, that is it from my side. Thank you for being there. Thank you for sparing your time and sharing your valuable insights. We really appreciate it. And looking forward to have you again someday in the upcoming months so that we get an advanced version of what e-commerce exports and more such developments from the government side and from your side, and we really contribute to the nation at large and make impact in the lives of the exporters. With this note, thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you for having
Chaitanya.
me. Thank you so much, Chaitanya. Thank you,
Thank
Meena.
you. Thanks for a lovely session. So much information for us to
And
know.
thank you for all members for attending this session. I really hope it was helpful. And I would like to
Yeah,
hear your comments. You all can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to Meenal. Meenal is very supportive as well. She trains a lot of people. She really actually helps a lot of exporters as well. So you all can always reach out to her.
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you. And audience,
Thank you.
thanks for being a lovely audience, for all the patience. We will come back to you with a new session next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Until then, stay safe and you have a great time. Bye, everyone.